My only problem with this, there's the resume argument. We're now arguing over teams that in the past would have never had the opportunity. So we look at, like, even I think Alabama can barely get in. Ohio State lost. I made this argument. They lost really badly to Iowa, and they really had a chance to make a statement by beating Wisconsin tremendously. They could have really stepped on their neck and pounded them into the ground. So we've been arguing over who should be the fourth team. And it's like, in the past, none of this would have mattered. They wouldn't have either had a chance. And now we're putting two teams like Wisconsin. Wisconsin has an opportunity now too.
That's true. I think, one thing as college football has evolved, we now have left it in the hands of the athletes to determine who's the winner and not left it in the hands of coaches or media members. As much as I love the media and teach it for a living, it should not be in their hands. It should be in the hands of the players. And so I think with an 8-team playoff, I think a 16-team playoff is too much because all of a sudden you have champions, those.
How many games would that be too?
That'd be 17 games
a lot.
for teams that make it to the finals.
Yep.
That's way too much.
Yep.
I shouldn't say way too much, but that's
a lot
for sure. And then I think 4 teams is too few because we're guaranteed to leave out a Power 5 conference every year.
Yeah.
Every year we're going to leave out a champion.
Well, there's always going to be controversy.
Exactly. And I think the controversy between 4 and 5 is different than the controversy between 8 and 9. In that once you start getting into the 8, 9, 10 range,
no one's going to argue, Iowa should be in instead of whoever's 8th.
Yeah. Once we have conference champions, all of them having an auto bid, now those teams on the fringe no longer have as strong of a case as an Ohio State or a USC does this year.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the strength of it. I think that by allowing 2 auto bids, you now allow some good teams like Alabama and Wisconsin, 1-loss teams, who don't win their conference to still have a chance at the national championship. And I think that really is what the strength of this proposal is.
I like it. I have 2 responses to it. First of all, I like the way you set it up. I think that's, if I was going to do an 8-team college football playoff, this is how I would do it. Everyone gets represented. You get the non-Power 5 teams a chance to also get their bid, where UCF, Notre Dame. But it goes back to, but my argument is this. I think excluding someone, having this controversy is actually good for college football because we care way more because we're angry and upset. When you involve people's emotions, it's better for the sport. When there's controversy, when there's conflict, we're drawn to that. It's a better storyline.
But what's the purpose of college football? Is it to drum up controversy and storylines, or is it to determine who the actual champion is? Because in my mind, it's to determine the actual champion. And we can still have our controversy about who's the 8th seed without undermining the conference champions from each conference.
What goes, is it a business or is it a storytelling medium where we can create controversy and sell ads, right? Are we trying to,
it's both.
Are we trying to find the champion? Because I think that's a counter argument, trying to find the champion or sell the most ad revenue.
Well, by adding another round of games, don't you sell more?
100%, definitely.
So I think in the long run, and I think a lot of critics would say, okay, well, now you're adding another weekend, and these are student athletes who have to go to class, and I totally understand that. And yet the NCAA added on a couple play-in games for basketball, and so now those teams could play up to 7 games over a span of 4 weekends in March and April, and so let's call a spade a spade.
Now, does this take away from the big matchups in the regular season? Does this detract from that?
I think that's a great argument. I think the reason why I like 8 is because it still puts a lot of emphasis on the regular season, especially as far as who makes it to their conference championship, or if a conference decides we don't want a conference championship, and instead we want to base our auto bid on the regular season champion. They're free to do that. Some conferences, for example, the SEC, don't play as many conference games during the season as other conferences. Yeah. And so now it gives more emphasis on however the conferences want to determine their champion, they can do it. If they want to get rid of a game, being the championship game, great. If they want to keep it, great. But I think that by adding one more weekend, it doesn't water down the regular season.
Well, it's a happy medium, right? If you lose, if Ohio State loses to Oklahoma like they did this year, you're still biting your nails. We may not get in. Where if you have 16, you're like, we're fine. And that 16 definitely takes away from the regular season games. They wouldn't matter nearly as much. Now you're still worried if you lose a big game like that.
And every team slips up. Other than Central Florida this year, every team has slipped up.
But who did Central Florida play? That's the whole argument.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's why for the Power 5 schools, the 1-loss teams, maybe even a couple 2-loss teams should have an argument.